Ferrari just unveiled the Spider version of the already gorgeous Ferrari Roma, and here it is, 612 horsepower. This is the same powertrain as the coupe, but I want to show you the differences in design, how they managed to keep this beautiful shape but cutting the roof off, what changes actually happened in the rear end. First of all, let's have a look at what's new with this Ferrari Roma Spider. We have a folding fabric roof that closes in 13.5 seconds. Not bad. Get up to 37.28 miles per hour. That's 60 kilometers per hour. And this is an article by Motor One. I'm gonna link it down in the description. So as I said, the powertrain is the exact same as the coupe. So we have a twin turbo 3.9 liter V8 with 612 horsepower and 561 pound-feet of torque. And the Roma can reach 0 to 60 or 62 miles per hour in 3.4 seconds, and that is exactly the same as the coupe, and it also has about the same top speed. Ferrari says it's over 199 miles per hour or 320 kilometers per hour. What I think is impressive here is that it doesn't weigh a lot more than the coupe, actually just 84 kilograms or 85 pounds more than the coupe, and that is very impressive considering all the new engineering pieces and parts that needs to go into this mechanism of the folding roof. And on the inside, we're gonna have a look at this in Photoshop. You have a digital instruments cluster for the driver, obviously, and then there is an 8.4 inch central display. And I think 8.4 inches is enough. That's all you need for a central infotainment screen. It doesn't need to be bigger, really, because what are you using it for? You have a couple of, in this case, you have some tactile buttons, so it's supposed to just give you the information that you need and not take up too much space. I'd rather have a beautifully designed interior than a big, just flat screen covering up everything. So I think they did a good job. But I have a couple of things to say about the interior in general from my review of the Roma, which was, I think, back in 2020 or something like that, when I went over the entire car. Now let's jump into Photoshop here. Let's have a look at this design. So I think, as I said when I did the Roma video, when it first came out, I think this is one of the best looking Ferraris in the last 20 years or so, because this is going back to what I think Ferrari is supposed to be in their design philosophy, and that is basically the complete opposite to what Lamborghini is. Lamborghini is brutal, it's aggressive and sharp and angular. Well, Ferrari is supposed to be a little bit more laid back, chilled out, and elegant in its design. I think this encapsulates the old style Ferraris that I loved. For example, the 456, the 612, and then you have the 550 Maranello as well. This feels like a good modernization of those designs. So having a look at the comparison between the Spider here, obviously, and the coupe, it really isn't that many changes from this view. I do love this color, and that we have some very subtle lines. There's not a single sharp line except for this line in the bottom. The rest of the car, everything is beautifully sculpted, and it feels very Italian and very organic in its approach. I also like these headlights because I think this is what I'm talking about. The elegance of Ferrari. They don't look aggressive or angry. Not every single car needs to have this look like we have even on the Toyota Yaris these days. It just looks angry even though it's a Yaris. I don't understand why it doesn't need to be angry. And then what's interesting about this front end when I first saw the Roma is this grille, because I thought that this grille might be a preview of what an EV Ferrari could look like and how they could treat the grille when it comes to electric power, since they don't need to have a big opening. So I've heard a lot of opinions about this, having this be in the same color as the rest of the car. I like it especially in white. I think it looks really good. And then we have this mouth at the bottom where you have all the it looks like you have a couple of sensors and stuff down there, and also of course the radiator. Now looking at the side view, this is obviously the biggest changes in side view, and in the rear view looking at the coupe right here and then comparing that to the new Spider Roma. I think, as I said, it's a beautiful translation from the coupe, which this is one of these cars that I'm not sure which one I would actually pick if I had to choose between these two. Usually I pick the coupe, because I normally like the styling of a roofline, specifically in a beautiful coupe like this. But they made the convertible so good looking that I'm not sure which one I would pick between these two. You can see that we have a tiny rear seat here as well. Not probably fit for adults, maybe for very small children or your pet or something like that. A detail that I like about this is that we have a cut in the lower part with this black graphic going in, creating a nice tight hip here, making it feel less heavy and also more athletic by just using some graphics. And you have that, of course, in the coupe as well. So what changed in the rear to be able to house this folding fabric roof? You can see that we have in the coupe, it's pretty standard. You have this greenhouse stretching into this point, and then you have the trunk opening right here. But all of this obviously needs to change when we go into a Spider model, and I think they did a really good job styling this rear end, because I love these two lines that don't exist on the coupe. We have one line here going in and then kind of housing this Ferrari logo down here, and it feels almost smoother than the coupe. I'm not sure which one I prefer. I do love both of these cars, both the coupe and the convertible, and I also heard a lot of opinions about these taillights not being round, but I like it because what they did here is implement the taillight, the shape of the taillight, the lines of the taillight in the overall line flow of the car. You can see that these lines follow the same line as the spoiler that we have in the rear. And I think that's a beautiful touch and also a cool modernization of the, traditional 4-circle taillights that we have of Ferrari. And I'm not sure if I think these exhaust down here stick out maybe a little too far. They look very aggressive in the rear end, of course, both the same in the coupe and in the Spider. It looks very sporty, that's for sure, and the diffuser is just huge, sticking up with these wings or flaps all the way to this point, almost halfway up the rear end. So when I was reviewing this car, the Ferrari Roma, back in, I think it was 2020, I can't really remember. That video is here on the channel if you want to go and check that out. When I had a look at the interior, I love the styling of the interior. It's beautiful because we have two separated compartments here, one for the driver and then separation here for the passenger as well. And here you can see this optional screen, or I guess you could call it a small infotainment screen for the passengers, which is pretty cool to have. But this is what I'm talking about. You can see just how well integrated this infotainment screen is. It sits in this waterfall. It's not a waterfall in this case, I wouldn't say, but it sits snugly in this bay that it's been designed specifically around the screen. And then you have, of course, the gear selectors and everything going on here. I like that they try to make it look like a manual, shifted gate with these controls down there, kind of to fool you a little bit. And of course you have the all digital gauge cluster. But the thing is, when I was reviewing this, I felt like the infotainment screen was very laggy. It could have been because it was one of the first Romas in the United States, so they might have updated that by now. I hope so, for what you're paying for this. What is it, like $270K or something like that for the coupe? There's no pricing yet on the Spider. But the software was the only thing that was kind of a letdown when I was reviewing this car. Other than that, it's a Roma. It's a gorgeous looking machine. Going back to the classic design philosophy of Ferrari of elegance and pureness in its lines and surfacing, you can feel like it's been sculpted by hand, not some computer generated model. And I think the Spider definitely follows in that tradition.